Welcome back to Bad Boss Detox. This week, bosses who broke bad. They were charming, trusted, and totally full of it. From embezzling nuns to cocaine-slinging dentists, we're diving into the world of boss-level crime. Because not all villains wear suits. Some wear scrubs and sensible shoes.
Yeah. Other than that, how you doing?
Oh, I'm great.
Great.
I have no other answer anymore for the last 6 months. I'm just fucking great.
I'm so thrilled to hear that.
I got an email yesterday from Michael at Sweetwater Sound, whatever that place is that you had me buy this.
Yep.
And he sent me an email yesterday to, introduce himself.
Mm-hmm.
Asked me if any one dead musician could come back, which one would you choose? And I was like, I said, dude, if I could choose just, if anyone can choose just one, then they're a better fan than me.
Yeah.
But I did point out that I frequently miss George Michael and would like to see him again in concert. And this kid probably, is very young, I would imagine.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, that would be a great show. I assume you've seen him before.
I love Sweetwater, but I do think it's really funny. And there's like memes on the internet about how they will reach out to you in just such a friendly way and be like, hey, it's me, Mike from Sweetwater. Just wondering what you're doing.
I got a call yesterday,
like your ex
too.
Reaching out to you like, hey, girl, you busy?
I got a phone call, long message. I didn't even listen to it, but the transcript was like this long. And then I got a 2-sentence email from him.
Yeah. But legit, like if you have a question, they will help you. They will fucking
Oh, I know.
figure
I've
it
talked
out.
to him before.
Yeah, they're great people over there. But it's just so funny how they're just like, hey, you bought a box of clarinet reeds from us and nothing else. Just wanted to reach out and introduce myself. I'm like, clearly it's company policy, and that's cool. You didn't ask me how I'm doing, but I'm doing good.
Hey, Katie, how you doing?
I'm fine. I'm fine. I liked having our meeting today. We had our little networking meeting today and got to see some folks and got some new folks to show up. And
Yeah, it was a good one.
It was a good one. Yeah.
Yeah.
But we got to see Mike. Mike is doing great.
I can't believe it.
I love him.
And also,
is such
I did
sweetheart.
not, when I made that joke about him being short the other day on the podcast.
Yeah. So don't feel bad. He took it in stride and it made it funny.
When I was standing there talking to him, I almost made a joke. I almost was like,
You're taller than I thought.
You're
Well, when I saw him across the coffee shop, I yelled at him, hey, Mike, it's me. I'm in your house. And like ran up to him and hugged him and embarrassed him. And he was like casually leaning on the counter and was like, oh. Anyways.
He said he did send the podcast to one person he works with to see how that he chose one.
It's doing really well.
It is. It's doing great.
I
And we're going to
sent
go on
him-
his. When he has his podcast.
Absolutely.
We're gonna
His
go on
sounds
his.
cool. I like his concept. All right. So, I had a lot of fun researching these people, and I do want to let the listeners know that, like, some of these things were hard to find out definitively what the facts were. So, we will happily take corrections if you know something we don't, but this is just based on the articles that I found. So,
So it's all allegedly.
allegedly. Well, I mean,
Allegedly.
this lady was convicted, so, not allegedly.
I
She
can't.
admitted to
her
what she did.
face.
I
She
know.
just looks like a little grandma.
I know. I showed her picture to Sean, and I was like, look at this lady. Do you think that she, did the crime? And he was like, that looks like my grandma. I absolutely believe she did that because his grandma goes to casinos all the time.
Well, yeah, they love it.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about Sister Mary Margaret Kruper, is the way I've heard her name pronounced. If that's incorrect, I'm sorry, sister. All right. Sister. That's right. This lady is a nun. She took a vow of poverty at age 18, but as principal of St. James Catholic School in Torrance, California, she and her vice principal, Sister Lana Chang, who were friends and they lived together because they were roommates, both drove newer-looking Volvos. And this raised some eyebrows because you wouldn't expect a nun to have like a nice Volvo, But I mean, maybe sometimes the church buys them a new car when the old one breaks.
From the church.
Yeah, Volvo's a safe car. All right. So, Parents said that Sister Mary Margaret Kruper seemed to be a bit gruff as a principal, but she did not engage in the ruler slapping as a form of discipline, like some nuns were known to do at the time. According to parents at the school, she was very in tune with sports and had a great relationship with the kids and the parents. The school had a thriving student body, but always seemed to be a little short on funds. That's weird.
Mm-hmm.
One parent, a volunteer athletic coach, noted that when he inquired about equipment and uniforms for a new sports team, that the school seemed to have only ratty rubber footballs available, despite the athletic fee required to join sports teams.
Huh.
Also, the kids...
Curious.
In California, mind you, the kids had to eat lunch outside in a parking lot in the sweltering California heat. And there was, quote-unquote, no money to build a shade structure to protect them while they were eating lunch every day.
Wait a second.
Yeah.
So this Catholic school,
Mm-hmm.
which is, the Catholic Church is pretty rich. They have buildings made of gold in places. They don't have a cafeteria?
This school did not, evidently.
Huh.
Yeah. When I worked at a Catholic school, my first year teaching, it was a similar situation, which is why I wanted to take this story. Like, they charged what they charged for tuition, and they were always out of money.
Well, I'm not surprised because I am not surprised.
You're not going to be surprised later on either. Okay. So anyway, that being said, like at all of the schools I worked at, if that were the case, that they had to sit outside in the sun every day, I would have sent one email and some good guy dad would have showed up with his truck and a couple of saws and just built the thing himself. Like,
yeah.
I mean, they just would have been like, oh, that's easy. Whoop, 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 done. But this didn't happen.
I mean, you expect your kid's private school
A private school, yeah.
to have a cafeteria.
For sure.
A Catholic school is always a private school.
But the thing about Catholic schools is that they're usually in the same building as a church, and sometimes they're using a room for this or that or the other. And so, like, classrooms get moved around and stuff a lot. Yeah.
I guess.
Anyway, students at this school were required to participate in numerous fundraisers throughout the year. And you'd think that this, combined with the $6,000 yearly tuition, would provide pretty much everything the school needed. But something wasn't right. $6,000 is not really insane to charge for a private school. It's not that bad. But this was not, I mean, that should still be plenty. Like, it had a thriving student body. They had plenty of students, plenty of community, and all these fundraisers. So what was going on? The board of parents noticed that Sister Mary Margaret would never disclose the amount raised in fundraisers. This was a big red flag to me.
Yeah, it's against the law with charity, but churches aren't charity.
Yeah. Laws are a little different with that.
Yeah.
So working with the PTO at my school, who was always wonderful, and I have no bad words to say about them.
Mm-hmm.
Working with the PTO at my school, they were meticulous about fundraising goals, and every dime was accounted for. Because how can you track progress toward a goal without disclosing the amount of money that you raise? Like, how can you know, right?
Mm-hmm.
And my PTO was always on the ball at multiple schools that I worked at. Anyway, for unrelated reasons, a parent requested a copy of a tuition check they'd sent the school and noticed that it was deposited into an unfamiliar account. Not a school account at all. So that's weird.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, this account was one that helped pay the living expenses of the other nuns at the convent. Okay, all right. And they had also taken vows of poverty, of course. Which, I mean, I guess that's kind of weird, but okay. That, they need groceries and stuff too, right?
Nuns have to eat too.
Nuns gotta eat.
And drive Volvos. Mm-hmm.
So, Sister Mary Margaret retired in 2018. And at that time, the diocese began to conduct a routine audit of the school's funds so that everything would be in order for the next principal. This was just supposed to be a formality. But when the process began, Sister Kruper asked multiple employees to destroy certain documents. These employees informed the priest, and a thorough investigation began. But this lady was a nun.
A nun.
Look at her sweet little face.
The whole time.
She looks like the worst she would ever do is scold you for the hem of your skirt being too short, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And she had worked there for nearly 30 years as a teacher and a principal. She had a good relationship with everybody. Nobody wanted to believe that she'd been stealing from the school. But during the audit, it became clear that a lot of money was missing. Perhaps unsurprisingly. I mean, Ivy, this is going to blow your mind, I'm sure.
Okay.
But the church wanted to handle all of this internally and keep it pretty much under wraps.
Of course they did.
Uh-huh. No shade, but some shade. No,
God, there's so much shade that I just have to sit here with my...
There's more shade than there was where the kids had to eat lunch.
Right? Can you throw some of that shade towards the kids?
Poor kindergartners getting a sunburn while they're eating their little PB&J.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So this is a quote from a newspaper article about it. The Archdiocese of Los Angeles reported the theft to the Torrance Police Department, but declined to pursue criminal charges, saying it wanted to address the matter internally.
Yeah.
So they reported it, but they said they didn't want to press charges.
Mm-hmm.
But once the police started looking into how much money was missing, it turned out to be around $835,000.
Why'd she stop there? She was almost at $1 million.
I know, she was so close. She stopped there because she was going to retire. She was
it's the poverty
79.
thing.
Yeah.
The poverty thing. She couldn't get up to $1 million. She swore poverty.
Yeah. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Kruper used the money to pay for expenses that the order would not have approved, much less paid for, according to her, including large gambling expenses and trips to Las Vegas, Lake Tahoe, and Temecula. Is that how you say that? I don't know. According to her plea agreement.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And when you have a gambling addiction, you end up having to rob Peter to pay Paul oftentimes. So most of this was where she had gone to gamble and then had to pay it back to all the money she lost, and just kind of became a vicious cycle.
Yeah, I'm sure her intentions were good the first time she stole money. She was going to put it all back, and then she was going to build those kids a cafeteria with her winnings.
She just wanted to hang out with her roommate in Lake Tahoe.
Yeah.
In announcing her sentencing, U.S. District Court Judge Otis D. Wright II said he struggled with weighing legal punishment against pleas for forgiveness from Catholic families whose children were taught at St. James. So this is the part of the story that I was like, okay, legit though, let's think about this. Kruper was stealing from families who sometimes scrimped and saved to send their kids to this school.
Yeah, just to send their kids to school.
Yeah, to this specific school where they didn't have to send their kids. They wanted them to have specifically a Catholic education. That was part of what they wanted, okay? Yeah. And they went bent over backwards to make it happen because that is not necessarily easy for everyone to afford, okay? Mm-hmm. Hoping that their kids would be taught to live a righteous life. And Kruper broke that trust of those families. Some of them began to question their faith entirely, feeling deeply betrayed. But there were others who believed the judge should show mercy on this 80-year-old lady who showed deep remorse. And
did she, though?
She did, yeah. In the articles, I'll get to one of the quotes about it in a minute.
But, I mean, you bought it. You thought this is actual remorse.
It seemed genuine to me according to the quote, but, like, also...
Because they're trained in confession.
Yeah. But the thing is, she was 80 years old. And if they sentenced her to 20 years or something like, that's it. She's never getting out, you know. And so the judge was torn about how long this sentence should be. She confessed to what she did as well. But ultimately, what he did, the judge ordered Kruper to spend 12 months and a day behind bars and pay back the school the $835,339 in restitution. I don't know where she's going to get it.
I was just going to say that. I was just going to say, but she's retired. She can't steal it to pay it back.
Yeah, she can't be employed by anyone else. She's a felon now. And she's 80. Or she was in 2022. So, yeah. So, like, I don't know this lady or her accomplice, but it sounds like this was a serious gambling addiction running rampant.
Was the accomplice her friend with Volvo?
Yes, her friend, Sister Lana Chang. They did this together.
So, was Lana Chang punished?
I could not find very much information about her, but
yeah.
That's a good question.
Hmm.
But, when you're a nun and you're living a pretty repressed life, at 18, she took this vow, right?
Mm-hmm.
I could see the temptation coming up. You can't have sex. You're never going to get married. You can't do many things that a lot of people do to enjoy their life.
Mm-hmm.
And she did something. Well, Kruper told the judge that she was profoundly sorry and would spend the rest of her life trying to follow more closely in Christ's footsteps. Her lawyers said she had been suffering from mental illness, which, quote, clouded her judgment. So I guess she just didn't know what she was doing when she deposited hundreds of tuition checks into the wrong account repeatedly over 10 years or so. And so somehow she just did all this without realizing what she was doing and then accidentally ended up gambling it all away in Vegas? Yeah. Okay. I'm not buying that shit. So, yeah. I also could not find whether she is still alive. I couldn't find anything else about, she served her sentence apparently because it was a year and a day. But I could not find anything else about her after that. So I don't know where she is now. Sister, if you want to come on the pod and speak your piece, we are here to listen, darling.
Yeah. I will hold my tongue and listen.
So I think that's pretty crazy. And the fun, we maybe need to post her little mugshot on the Instagram.
It's we could use that for our snippet for our soundbite.
There's something about her eyes. Look in her eyes. Look close in her eyes. This expression is a little bit just like, oh, shit. They know what I did, don't they?
Yeah, no, that picture to me, at first glance, she's just a normal old lady. Mm-hmm. But that picture to me, she is forcing that little smile on her face. She's very red in her cheeks. Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's an unhappy woman.
Yeah. And I feel that's the part of me that has sympathy for her,
Mm-hmm.
It's like, if you took a vow when you were 18 and then...
She didn't get to live her life.
Yeah. And I understand how it could start to feel like you have regrets after a certain time.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's the story of Sister Mary Margaret Kruper.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. Well, I have a story for you.
Oh,
Katie.
Who is that speaking into the mic?
Yeah. Do you know who Elizabeth Holmes is?
A little bit, but okay. I would love to learn more.
Well, I'm gonna tell you, and I'm gonna tell you in this voice because I want to be taken seriously.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
I don't think that my real voice comes across as serious. Okay.
Okay, because you sound too much like a woman. Is that what it is?
Yeah. So,
some internalized misogyny going on, maybe?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Elizabeth Ann Holmes was born in February of 1984.
You don't have to do the whole time.
I know. Her dad was the vice president at Enron, and her mom was a congressional committee staffer. So it's weird. It's weird, right, that Elizabeth was not an angel.
Oh, yeah. Those are two very upstanding jobs.
Enron and Congress. Mm. All right. So the Holmes family was part of the Fleischmann yeast family. Elizabeth's great-great-great-grandfather started Fleischmann yeast.
Okay.
And the family was very, very proud of that fact. In high school, Elizabeth was very into computer programming, and she claims to have started her first business while she was still in high school. Later, she attended Stanford University and applied for her first patent in 2003. That patent was for a wearable drug patch. In 2004, she dropped out of college and used her tuition money to fund a consumer healthcare tech company. So all her life, Elizabeth says she was scared of needles, so she didn't like having blood drawn. She didn't like getting shots. And she claims to have used this as motivation for her company that she named Real Time Cures.
Okay.
Her goal was to create a method of testing blood by just using a small amount of blood. Instead of like a vial, she wanted it to be like a pinprick. Despite being told by actual medical professionals and people who knew what they were talking about, she insisted and pushed on. Eventually, she somehow convinced her advisor at Stanford to back her, and she renamed her company Theranos, which is a portmanteau of the words therapy and diagnosis.
Okay.
Okay, so Theranos. From there, she allegedly changed her voice to the alarmingly deep baritone that we heard just a moment ago.
Alarmingly
and
deep.
alarmingly deep. Began utterly defrauding medical professionals with a revolutionary technology that allowed people to get a diagnosis of a bunch of diseases, including cancer, with just the prick of a needle and a drop of blood. And although there does not seem to be any direct statements from Elizabeth regarding her voice change, multiple people have said that ain't her real voice. And when she gets drunk, her real voice comes out. Her parents, though, say, oh, no, that's her real voice. It is believed that she thought that a deeper voice would be more convincing than her regular voice. And this reminds me of Paris Hilton. Because Paris Hilton actually naturally has a normal voice, like my regular, somewhat deep voice, but she changed it to the high-pitched, Valley Girl-esque voice to claim her party girl status.
Yeah,
so it's the
fit
opposite.
her brand.
It's the opposite, but also Paris Hilton never did these things. She just had a good time. So by December... Yeah. By December of 2004, she had raised $6 million to fund Theranos, and she grew that over $92 million by 2011.
Wow.
She pulled in former Secretary of State George Shultz, and over the course of 3 years, she had put together the most illustrious board of directors in U.S. history. In 2013, she partnered Theranos with Walgreens and was soon after recognized as the world's youngest self-made billionaire.
Dang.
Which is wild because how was she getting away with this for so long? I don't know. Anyway.
So she just had all these investors believing in her company that she made up.
Almost like a Ponzi scheme, but it wasn't a Ponzi scheme because she was actually supposedly doing something, and they were partnering with these companies, and they were performing tests.
Yeah.
And claiming to be, having results to the tests. So anyway, unbeknownst to the young go-getter, a journalist had been tipped off by a medical professional who was like, this is bullshit.
Right.
So he got tipped off and started secretly investigating Theranos and Holmes. He said the medical person called him up and used the word fishy. It's just fishy. So then it all started to unravel like a cheap pair of pantyhose and a broken fingernail. There were scathing articles, books, and papers. A lab inspection uncovered serious problems with staff proficiency, procedures, and equipment. When that happened, Elizabeth scrambled, but eventually she was put on a bit of a probation by CMS, the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. They put her on a 2-year probation, saying you cannot do anything in the medical field for 2 years while this is investigating. So that led to Walgreens ending their relationship and a Jenga tower-like collapse of Theranos. More investigations, some lawsuits, some settlements. In 2018, the SEC, which is the federal agency that oversees investment stuff, charged Holmes and Theranos' former president, Ramesh Sunny Balwani, with fraud by taking more than $700 million from investors while advertising a false product.
Wow.
Theranos, $700 million. She was a billionaire. She became a billionaire. Theranos, at its peak in 2016, employed over 800 people. And by the next year, they were down to about half. And they were all out of a job by September of 2018. So Ms. Holmes was not alone in this mess. She was possibly a one-time homewrecker who got tangled up with the married man Ramesh Sunny Balwani.
Oh,
who
so that was her
was
partner.
Yes, and he was also
Ooh.
19 years older than her. She was 18 when they met. He was 36.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right,
So-
Sonny.
Right.
Slow down, bud.
Well, so there's a part of this story that I didn't include
Mm-hmm.
because I am not a fan of people not believing women when they have been sexually assaulted.
Yeah.
And I couldn't find any story about the reason why she left Stanford that did not pose it as she lied and said that she was assaulted.
Oh, that's shitty.
So I don't know if that was ever proven that she was lying, but everyone said, oh, well, she claimed. Oh, well, she claimed. So she said that he comforted her during that time and that they did not have an affair, that they did not start dating until he was divorced. But I don't trust either one of them.
Well, no.
Right. And that just doesn't make any sense either. Why
Yeah,
is this
I wonder about
36-year-old man
Yeah.
comforting this 18-year-old?
That is fishy,
girl?
as that unnamed medical professional would
It's all
put it.
fishy. They're just as fishy as that voice. So they went down together on the Theranos ship of wrecked dreams. Balwani became the COO of Theranos earlier when she first opened the company. And in June of 2018, he became co-defendant with his girl toy and charged with 9 counts of wire fraud, 2 counts of conspiracy to commit fraud. And they pled not guilty.
Of course.
Sunny had left Theranos and Elizabeth, it seems, in 2016. He says he quit. She says she fired him. They are both shady fuckers.
Yeah.
So, the baritone blonde billionaire was finally tried in August of 2021 after delays for COVID as well as Holmes's pregnancy with her new partner, Billy. Billy's family owns a chain of hotels. The defense showed Holmes' role in faked demonstrations, falsified validation reports, misleading claims about contracts, and overstated financials at Theranos. She was found guilty and sentenced to 11 1/4 years in federal prison, and she was ordered to split the $452 million owed to victims of the fraud with Balwani. Don't know where they're going to come up with $452 million, but
Because they were doing research, right? But none of it was working. They were just pretending.
They were pretending that it was working. They were coming up with they were falsifying the reports.
So they were paying people to supposedly do stuff and work for them.
Yeah, they were paying people, but
Yeah.
where they're going to get that money to pay back the
Right.
victims is
'cause it's
another story.
Ay.
And by the time she actually went to prison, she had another child. So she has 2 kids out there.
Mhm.
She was able to buy more time to find a place for her kids to live while she was in jail. So I don't know who the second kid was with or why the kids can't just live with their daddies while mom's in jail. She did appeal and it was denied. So I looked it up to see what was it like to work for Elizabeth Holmes.
Yeah, she sounds like a crazy lady.
Yeah. And she looks like one too if you look at her.
I need to look at a picture of her.
eyes. Yeah.
Didn't she also wear like black turtlenecks all the time because she thought she was
always
Steve
in
Jobs?
black. Always in black. She never really looked that put together. Like her ponytail could have been neater, I think, in a lot of the things she was concentrating on.
I mean,
making
she's
sure.
cute.
She's not unattractive.
No, she's
just
not
got-
unfortunate looking.
She's just got crazy eyes.
Oh yeah. I see the crazy eyes.
She's got crazy eyes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, a TikToker who was an executive assistant to Holmes said she only made $18 an hour, but she worked so much that she made 6 figures a year,
Oh my God.
which is like, wow, because 40 hours a week at $18 an hour is less than $38,000 a year.
So let's math that out. Okay.
So somehow, if she was making $100,000, more than half of her annual salary was coming from overtime.
Yeah.
She said Holmes was obsessed with green juice from Whole Foods.
All right.
And that there were strict orders that employees do not speak to one another.
What?
She said that she was once grilled by Elizabeth because she knew it was a coworker's birthday and brought cupcakes.
What?
And that Sonny Belwani once kicked her out of his office because she was wearing black nail polish.
Okay, hold on.
Mm-hmm.
He kicked the employee that gave this report out of his office because she was wearing black
Yes.
nail polish?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And another employee said there was always something fishy or peculiar going on. It was very clear that they were trying to hide something. Every morning I woke up and wondered what they were going to spin today while I was trying to find my exit strategy.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Mm-hmm. And the thing is, she got Fleischmann yeast money. She got Enron money. She got congressional staffer money. What? Greedy. It's just greedy.
Yeah, I mean, I get the notion of wanting to, like, make your own fortune, make your own way, and not have to, like, ride on the coattails of your family's money. But, like, at what point do you just admit that you're making shit up? Like, if a medical professional can say it's impossible to get all this information from a pinprick's worth of blood, then every medical professional knows that. So no one was questioning her?
Anyone who went to any kind of medical field training.
Yes. Every nurse that takes your blood knows that.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah. Man, people just need to listen to nurses. God damn. I bet that some nurse was like, wait, that's not right. And someone was like, shut up, you're just a nurse.
I mean, you don't even have to be a nurse to take blood. You can go to phlebotomist school and become a phlebotomist, and you're going to learn it there, too. You got to take 6 vials of this fucker's blood because we want all these tests run.
Yeah.
And once you spin that blood in one test machine, you can't go spin it in another.
Spin it.
So,
yeah. Dumb.
Mm-hmm.
Lady. Listen, I have sympathy for her if she was assaulted. That fucking sucks. I don't want that for anyone.
Yeah, and I mean, that can also cause, and the fact that people didn't believe her.
Yes, that's really traumatic in the first place.
And I looked, I didn't look extensively, but I just didn't like the language they used when they said she claimed.
Well, she's already lost all credibility, through this scheme that she did. So, yeah, but like,
and
one does not equate to the other.
That. People do lie about being sexually assaulted. There have been cases where they have lied, but they didn't say anything in the articles proving that. So, better off just saying she was sexually assaulted. Why do you have to throw in the she claimed?
I also wonder if she was groomed by this partner of hers, being so much older than her, and that they got together when she was 18.
Well, yeah, and, they always say, oh, well, we didn't start dating until I was divorced. But
yeah, but
also,
that's what grooming is, though.
Then why'd you get divorced? Then, what? Yeah. Whatever.
Girl, I'm sorry. You should have done better. I mean, she probably had some shit go down before all this that made her feel like she had to prove herself in some way. Like, the deep voice and everything, too. That, to me, it's weird. It's just weird.
Yeah, there's some sort of mental something going on.
And internalized misogyny, I think, look, I'm not a therapist. We're going to get a therapist on here one day. But if I had to guess, I would say that some trauma in her past caused her to feel inadequate, not believed, maybe, not good enough somehow. And so she had to do all these things to prove that she was a genius and a visionary and whatever. And even to the point of making her voice sound more masculine, because maybe she felt like she was discriminated against as a woman in this business.
It could also be that she's just a shitty person.
Oh, it could also be that she just she's just messed up.
But also, like, I mean, sometimes untreated mental illness in children cause them to grow up and be shitty people. And
Right.
that's, you feel sorry for the child. I learned this from all of the true crime that I listened to. You feel sorry for the child because the child, Charles Manson, was terribly neglected and abused. So,
But that doesn't excuse
but that
anything
does
that he
not
did.
excuse
Yeah,
what he did as an adult.
that's right. Wow.
I know. And now
Yeah,
you're going to
looking at
talk
her
about a dentist.
I am going to talk about a dentist.
Oh.
Okay. All right. Well, we are going to move on to Dr. Larry Lavin, also known as Dr. Snow.
That's hilarious to me.
Mhm. So this information is coming from an article in the New York Times from 1986, which was very short, and also a podcast called The Philly Blunt, which is a podcast with apparently 3 potheads from Philly who interviewed this guy.
What?
I need to send
love
it to you. It's pretty great.
I love
they're no longer making episodes, but like if you want to binge some
But
crazy...
I can listen to some old ones. Okay.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So Larry Lavin had grown up poor. And when, during his sophomore year at Penn, a fraternity brother of his started selling pot, Larry took this small operation and expanded on it with his easily friended nature. So he said that he just made friends with people easily and was like outgoing and gregarious. So not a big deal, right? It was the 70s. He was selling pot to college kids. He soon became a big man on campus, selling pot and other party drugs to the college kids.
I'm on board so far with Dr. Snow.
No. He finished dental school in 1981, and Lavin became a successful dentist on the East Coast in the Philadelphia area. Through a friend's Cuban girlfriend, Larry and this friend pooled their money and bought half a key of Coke. They cut it with vitamin B and distributed it to some friends who sold it for them, and they ended up selling a key for about $75,000. And if you don't know, because you've never even seen Coke like me, a key is short for a kilo.
Yep.
And nowadays, a gram of Coke costs between $60 to $200. And of course, there are 1,000 grams in a kilo. In an article from Flaunt, this article contains excerpts from a diary, which may or may not have been written by Lavin. There's all these journal entries, and then the last thing written in the journal is, none of these journal entries are real. So, okay. But I'm going to tell you...
fictional journal.
I'm going to tell you what someone's journal says. And this someone has a lot of inside knowledge about this case. Okay. So, this quote from this journal, "A solid dental practice is nothing to scoff at until you know how much money you can make numbing people in other ways." It sounds awful to say it that way, but it's the closest thing to the truth.
Wow.
And honestly, as drug kingpins go, he seems like he was pretty chill. When dealers would ask for a small amount to sell, he would talk them into taking more and then just seeing what they could get. If they didn't pay, he just let it go.
What?
He didn't hunt them down and break their kneecaps, I guess.
Wow.
Yeah, that was nuts to me. That was nuts. This guy was just like, all right, money's lost. And a quote in that podcast that he said was, what good does it do you to get in trouble by going after someone? You try to work with someone, decide if it's worthwhile, and if it's not, then, you just don't work with them again, and they lose their connection, right?
Well, sometimes my husband had an old friend of ours came and got a bag of weed from us when we were younger, and he never paid him. We never saw him again, and my husband said, that was the best $25 I ever spent, because that person never came back around.
That's right. Now you know. Better to know than not know, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So this whole operation turned into what the New York Times called a $5 million a month cocaine ring.
Wow, I'm going to go be a dentist.
Right? $5 million a month in this cocaine ring. And they catered to lawyers, stockbrokers, and other professionals.
Nice.
So, yeah. And there was a phrase that they used later that was like yuppies or something. So that was like a thing. And okay.
Cocaine was like the classy
Yeah, that was like the
classy
it drug.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was kind of expensive, so they were selling it to yuppies.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. According to the FBI, between 1978 and 1984, the yuppie conspiracy distributed up to 110 pounds of cocaine a month in 14 states, the District of Columbia, and Canada. This guy was a huge deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. He apparently also owned a funk/rap music label. And I listened to that entire interview with Larry on that crazy podcast, which is no longer putting out episodes. And I'm really sad about it because now I want to go listen to it, the Philly Blunt. And Larry was chill as fuck. He had rap music playing in the background during this phone call the entire time. And he was just like, just being a bro with these potheads.
Nice.
You know?
So does that mean he's not in jail?
No longer in jail.
Excellent.
Yep.
Good for Larry.
Yeah. So a drug runner for Larry tried to talk him out of the game at one point. But apparently there was more than money motivating him.
Okay.
It was easy money day to day. He didn't end up having to do a lot of work after everything was kind of set and rolling. He had everything to lose and nothing to gain but more money. And once you've made so much money, it's kind of like, how much more do you need, you know?
Yeah.
But he stayed in the life of crime because he felt that he had to protect his friends.
Okay.
At a certain point, he started to get subpoenas in the mail every day asking for documents. So he knew that he was being investigated and started to get a lawyer. He started to feel the walls closing in. The friends that he had stayed in the game to protect were talking to the feds.
Yeah, that's what those kind of friends do.
Exactly.
So I have a question. Was he was he selling these drugs out of a dental office that he didn't actually do dentist work in? Or was he still a dentist?
He was still a dentist. He had patients. Yes.
Okay.
I couldn't find a ton of information about the actual dental practice.
Okay.
But I think it was just kind of money laundering. You know, he was laundering his coke money through the dental practice.
Sure.
Yeah. So this is how he got caught. Larry had made a stamp that he would use to make fake IDs with a fake, like a baptismal certificate. And he wanted to get rid of the stamp once he realized he was being investigated. He threw it in a dumpster across the street from his dental practice, along with some other documents.
Well, that was dumb.
That was dumb. The next day, 6 cops leapt on top of his car with shotguns. He really thought he was going to pull this off. And maybe if he did get caught, he would just have a tax situation to deal with, you know. But he still made bail and started prepping to go to trial. At this point, a friend of his told the FBI that he thought Lavin was going to run. And he did. Lavin, or someone, allegedly, wrote in this journal, this mystery journal.
Yeah, it wasn't a real journal.
None of it was real.
God, Katie.
The quote, some might say it was cowardly running like that, but I was never afraid of being caught. I knew what I was doing. I knew the consequences. That's what made it all so much fun, so addicting.
Hell yeah.
And it's really most of what kept me going. Ultimately, I ran because the thought of leaving my family was and is too much. I want to be there for my wife and my kids, to provide for their happiness and well-being in the way my father wasn't able to.
That doesn't really make sense, though, because did you take them with you when you ran on the run?
He did, yes.
Oh, he did? Okay.
Yes. So they ran to Virginia Beach. They changed all their names.
Sweet.
And they were like
Virginia
living on a
Beach.
boat. Yep.
Okay.
So after that friend admitted this to Lavin, he told Lavin, I told the FBI that I think you're going to run. And Lavin was like, well, fuck, I guess I better run.
Yeah.
So he went to Virginia Beach. There, he made friends with a dude down there. And he went into his house at one point and saw this friend had trophies all over his house from J. Edgar Hoover.
Huh?
And it turned out that this new friend was a retired FBI agent.
No.
Still, they grew to be close friends, and he expected that if the FBI ever did track him down, that this particular friend would warn him that the jig was up. But that's not how it went down at all. 2 years later, this friend got a hold of his photo and realized who he was, because the FBI had gotten clues about maybe what part of the country he was in, and they started distributing his photo even to like retired agents and stuff. And this guy was like, ah, shit, I've been fishing with this guy. I know who he is. So at this point, someone wrote in his diary the day before the FBI caught up with him. The day before, this is what he wrote. I saw Pat, that was his FBI friend,
Yeah.
Just as I was getting on the boat and waved to him, he gave me a strange look at first, and then smiled as if something suddenly dawned on him. It might be something to worry about. Then again, I'm sure an ex-FBI agent probably always seems a little off, depending on how much they've seen and heard over the years. Or maybe not. Maybe he knows something. I wouldn't be surprised. This friendship with Pat will probably be the end somewhere down the line. Still, it's downright hilarious that I consider an ex-FBI agent one of my friends for the time being. It really makes me feel like I've pulled it off one last time.
I love this guy. He's hilarious.
I know. I want to meet him. He's like, dude. Yeah, this guy's fascinating. All right. So Larry's dad, when he found out about all this drug dealing shit that his son had been doing, his dad said, "I heard you were the biggest kingpin in Philadelphia, maybe even the East Coast. Is that true?" And Larry said, "Yeah." And his dad said, "Well, I'm glad you did it right if you were going to do it."
Hell yeah.
All right, so in 1986, Lawrence Lavin, at 31 years old, was sentenced to 22 years in prison on drug charges.
That's too long for drugs. He didn't kill anybody.
Wait.
Okay.
22 years on drug charges and fined $100,000 by the federal district judge, Louis Pollock. In a later hearing, federal district judge Louis Bechtel added another 20-year sentence for tax evasions to be served consecutively. And he also fined him $140,000.
Is Dr. Lavin not white?
Nope. He is white as fuck.
Oh.
Yeah, he's a yuppie. He's Ivy League.
Okay.
Yeah. And that came up in the podcast, actually.
Mm-hmm.
So with this
sentence, that doesn't sound like a white yuppie sentence.
I know. All right. So he said, "In no place have I placed the blame on others," Mr. Lavin told Judge Bechtel before he was sentenced for tax evasion. "This is all my fault." So he never gave up somebody else.
Yeah. No, he's the best.
He served 19 years of that sentence.
Wow.
19 and a half years. According to him, he is the only one in history who's ever gotten a sentence like that. Al Capone got 11 years. Right? Larry says he feels guilt and remorse for his family because his kids grew up without him. After becoming such a hugely successful drug dealer, he still says none of it was worth it for the time he had to spend in prison.
Yeah.
And it sounds like he's doing okay now. He divorced that wife that he had at the time and everything. And in the interview, which was a few years ago, he said he's got a fiance and that they were happy and everything. And,
Does he have a relationship with his children?
He does, that they talk sometimes.
Okay.
Yeah. But, he missed most of their childhood.
Absolutely.
So it's got to be hard.
I mean, your kids can visit you in jail.
Yes. But I don't know how that went for him.
Yeah.
But honestly, as far as bad bosses go, I don't know if this guy is really the worst.
No, he was probably a great boss.
It sounds like he never ratted out his friends, even though some of them turned on him. And like I said, I couldn't find a lot of information about his dental practice, but it just sounds like he was laundering money through it. The day that he was jumped by the cops, he asked them to tell his patients that he wouldn't be in so they wouldn't be waiting for him all day.
Oh.
Still, I'm sure that all of those employees at the dental practice were just suddenly out of a job and their whole lives were turned upside down as part of this investigation. So, that sucks for them. And I'm not, 100% sympathetic for this guy. But, do you think he received a fair sentence?
No.
There's just some Reagan-era politics, probably. Because this was 1980.
Yeah, and it was in Philadelphia. So I guarantee you he crossed paths with my current boss's brother, who he's passed away now, but he was big in cocaine and drugs during those years in Philadelphia. Also white, but never went to jail about it.
Probably has heard about this guy then.
He's dead now, but he
yeah. Okay.
That was prime time for him.
Yeah, it was mentioned in that interview that during that time the coastline of the Philadelphia area was changed from being 3 miles off the coast to 200 miles off the coast so that the Coast Guard could raid boats that were in American waters at that point. So it changed the drug running and stuff. But yeah, so, and I also couldn't find out how he managed to only serve 19 and a half years of his 42-year sentence.
Right, because you said consecutive, not concurrent,
Yes, it was supposed to be, yes. But maybe he just charmed the parole board like he charmed me on that podcast.
Probably. He probably
and you, because you were like,
yeah.
fuck yeah, Larry.
No, I love this guy. I think he's hilarious. Like,
he's honestly super chill.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also there is a book called Dr. Snow, How the FBI Nailed an Ivy League Cocaine King.
Love that.
Yeah. And there was something else, like, I didn't get time to read his whole book or whatever, but the whole rap label and stuff, like, that played into the story well as well. So I encourage you guys, you listeners, if that was interesting to you, yeah, go check out those books and read up on Larry Lavin DDS.
Love him. Much better than the Jesus dentist.
All right, time for some donuts.
So it's time to make the donuts. Are you old enough to remember that commercial?
I am.
Okay.
Well, I've seen it, but probably after it had been on.
You saw, yeah. So time to make the donuts. All right. So one of my best friend's favorite things to do when we go to the beach that we go to every year is to go to a place called the Donut Experiment.
Mm-hmm.
And the Donut Experiment, I say it's kind of like a Subway for donuts. All the donuts are plain, and you pick your like icing, and then you pick your topping.
Cool.
So you fill out a little piece of paper. They make your donuts like a Subway. You walk down the line. They make your little donuts, and it's a whole lot of fun. It's a franchise, and so is a place called Holy Moly Donuts. So you can buy a franchise of Holy Moly Donuts and do kind of the same thing. So when a Holy Moly opened up in Detroit, right next to a marijuana dispensary, the opinions were mixed. On one hand, you got donuts and weed, right? So you can get high and then you can get snacks, a match made in heaven, right?
Yeah.
Kind of like when the Girl Scout cookies, I don't know, do you remember this? When Colorado first legalized weed, the Girl Scouts had the bright idea to put their little Girl Scout cookie selling tables right out on the street.
Yes, girls. Yes.
Yeah. So, but you can't actually smoke pot in dispensaries. But I think that a lot of potheads would come out and go, hey, I'm going to want some cookies later.
I'm gonna grab these for later.
Right. Yeah. So they totally cleaned up. But on the other hand, some folks were like, I don't want to take my kids to a donut shop that's right next to a pot store. And also, cops love donuts, right?
Yeah.
That's a well-known fact. So where there's donuts, there will be cops. Only this donut shop probably didn't love seeing cops come through the door, especially on the eve of the decision to legalize recreational weed in Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
To the naked eye, the dispensary appears legit, and so does the donut shop. But the ATM inside the dispensary was being filled with money that was gained from selling illegal marijuana. One of the co-defendants in this case worked for the ATM company, so you can't use credit cards in pot stores. So they all have an ATM
Right, it's
right
cash
outside,
only.
so you can get cash to buy your marijuana. So he was able to sell the ill-gotten devil's lettuce from the donut shop to recreational users, as well as passing off the money they made from selling marijuana as money earned by selling donuts. Lots and lots and lots of donuts. And some not so medical marijuana. As it turns out, the legal dispensary was not a legal dispensary.
Oh.
You can find a lot of fake dispensaries in New York City, too. You have to be real careful because they're not easy to spot. Victor Atisha, Junior Asmar, and James Shamas were all charged with conspiring to grow and distribute marijuana and then laundering the money through several businesses, including the donut shop and also from their bedrooms. Victor, having established his franchise of the donut shop in December of 2017, the very next year, in February of 2018, the donut shop was raided by federal agents. The trio had various roles: manufacturing, possessing, and distributing the marijuana, and laundering the drug money, according to the indictment. The marijuana was grown and cultivated in commercial and residential locations across Metro Detroit and sold throughout the region. So they didn't only sell it at the pot store and the donut shop and the bedroom. They sold it all over the place. They bought hundreds of pounds of marijuana with more than $100 million from that they had earned from their little company, from suppliers in California and other locations in order to sell it in Metro Detroit.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
Okay, so help me understand, because we don't live in a state where marijuana is legal. It's
Right.
only the like CBD Delta 8 shit here.
Mhm.
So like what makes it legal versus illegal? Is it
The
because
state
where
that
it's
you're
from?
in. Yeah, the state that you're in.
So where they're getting
The pot itself, if you've bought it from a legal dispensary, you still can't bring it to Tennessee.
Yeah.
And then if you bring it to Tennessee and you sell it, that is illegal marijuana, even though it was purchased legally in a legal state.
Right.
Because
but like what makes it illegal to sell in a state where it's already legal to sell? Is it because they didn't?
Because it's not in a legal dispensary. It has to be sold from a legal dispensary. It's not illegal to have it. It is illegal to sell it through a business that is not licensed to sell it.
Okay. So selling it through the donut shop was the problem.
Was selling it, well, and also selling it from the non-accredited or whatever they call it. That pot store was a sham. It wasn't an actual legal pot store. It was fake. It was under the guise of, because medical marijuana was legal already.
Mm-hmm.
This all went down right before Michigan decided that recreational pot could be legal.
Okay.
So the medical marijuana place was a sham. So I assume that means that they were not accredited, or whatever the word is for that, but also that they could sell it to people who did not have a legal medical marijuana card, because they weren't a legal medical marijuana shop.
Okay.
So they had spent $100 million on suppliers in California and other locations to bring it back and sell in Detroit. According to the government, during the bust, over $700,000 in cash was discovered and collected from among the three men and their places.
Wow.
Both the Holy Moly Donut 8 Mile location in Detroit and the sham medical marijuana store have since gone out of business. However, the website for the medical marijuana store is still up and running. It just doesn't have any details. Like there's nothing there. You can't shop there. It's just the shell of the website. Victor Atisha, the owner of the Holy Moly location in question, was sentenced to home confinement for his part in the crime.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
We were
Dr.
all
Larry
sentenced to
Lappin went to
home
jail for
confinement.
42 fucking years, and this guy had to sit on the couch.
We all did that during fucking COVID.
And also,
We were all
he
under
already
house
had a record for, like, other drug-related crimes. The other guy, Junior Asmar,
Yeah.
he was sentenced to 60 months in jail. And his bid to get out of jail early for being overweight and addicted to cigarettes was denied.
I bet it fucking was.
I'm overweight and I smoke too much. Can I go home too?
I wasn't built for this.
I can't go to jail.
I'm too pretty.
James Shamas' sentence,
Oh my
if
God.
there was one, has eluded me. I cannot find any information on that dude. Nothing.
All right, James, call us. Tell us what happened.
Yeah. So if you really like donuts, maybe you've tried Yum Yum Donuts at one of its many franchise locations. Katie, have you ever seen a Yum Yum Donuts?
Nope.
If you really like cocaine and the color pink, then it's just too bad that you missed out on the Yum Yum Donut scandal of San Jose in 2024. 32-year-old Luis Carrillo Moyeda purchased a franchise of Yum Yum Donuts and opened his little shop in a strip mall in San Jose, California. According to county records, he opened his Yum Yum shop in 2017. I don't know when he decided that the popular shop wasn't popular enough, so perhaps he'd try his hand at some pretty in pink party drugs. According to his arrest records, Luis was making and selling a drug called pink cocaine, also known as Pink Panther or Pantera Rose, among some other nicknames for the rosy drug.
Is it pink?
It's pink. He made the concoction from ketamine, methamphetamine, cocaine, and methylene dioxymethamphetamine.
Okay.
MDMA or
MDMA.
also,
Okay, I know what that is.
Ecstasy. Yeah.
Ecstasy. Okay.
Yeah. Ecstasy.
Yeah, I'm not a cool drug person.
I did ecstasy every Saturday of my 19th year.
Never even seen it.
It makes you chew on things.
Great.
So then he colored it a shade of pink that would even impress Elle Wood using food coloring.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it actually looks like the pink sugar you would just sprinkle all over your donuts. It's very pretty.
Yeah. I mean, for branding reasons, that kind of hits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know that with actual cocaine, you can like rub it on your gums and stuff and get an effect. So I don't know if you can actually eat this stuff, but it looks like pink sugar.
Wow.
So this story is really too new for any conclusions, and I have no proof of it, but I'm going to assume that the employees of both Holy Moly Donuts and Yum Yum Donuts probably really liked their jobs.
You know, I could see it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. What's this pink sugar over here? Leave that alone.
Oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
I can so imagine like a situation where you put the wrong sugar on the donuts and there's a batch that it's just real intense. I need to see a picture of this pink cocaine.
Yeah, just look up Yum Yum Donuts pink cocaine. You'll see it.
Right.
You have to scroll down, but there's like a little white container with some pink cocaine in it.
Oh, it does. It's very pretty. You know what? That is a very flattering color for like blush.
Yeah.
It would impress Elle Woods.
Yes.
I feel like she'd be into it.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, wow. It's a Barbie drug. It's Barbie drugs. Wow. I honestly kind of love the idea of it, but I'm good. That sounds like a really gnarly blend of drugs.
So, there's a rock star that used to come into the gym. I don't know if I've said this before, but I told him that when I was younger, I never really liked cocaine. Like I did party a lot, did a lot of things, but I never liked cocaine. And he's a Brit, and I said, well, you know, it always made me want to lie down. And he said, well, Ivy, that's the point. We wanted you to lie down. You got
I've heard it makes you
vocab word?
anxious.
Yeah, no, it does because it's cocaine.
I couldn't do it. Yeah, no, that's why I don't do drugs, because I have so much anxiety.
Well, I mean, pot can make you paranoid. Cocaine,
yeah.
And I never did a lot of cocaine. Like anytime I was around it, anytime I ever did any of it, it was just enough to be like everybody else. You know what I mean? Like I would, I would just like do a little bit and be done.
Yeah.
So I never really, but I know people who be running crazy on that shit. I did do speed, and that made me run a little crazy.
I bet. All right. I do have a vocabulary word.
All right.
It's time for the vocabulary word of the week.
Woohoo! You're
You're going to like this one. All right.
Okay.
This week's vocabulary word is skullduggery.
I love skullduggery.
It is a noun.
Mm-hmm.
It means underhanded or unscrupulous behavior. Also, a devious device or trick.
I think skulldugger is a on the list of funny names you can call people without cursing.
It sounds like a Shakespearean insult, you know.
Yeah. That's
I
skulldugger.
bite my thumb at thee, skulldugger.
Uh-huh.
Yes. Our example sentence is, Elizabeth Holmes didn't just sell a product. She sold a fantasy wrapped in biotech skullduggery and a Steve Jobs cosplay. That was some shade.
All right, you want to do a Mad Lib?
Yes, I do.
Here we go. This is an email from an investigation.
Oh.
Okay. And it's been pulled for records. So the subject is a delicate note about recent boobies. My dear Roger, I'm an old lady. I trust you're keeping golden and remembering to wear a proper toe ring in this unpredictable weather. At my age, one learns the importance of tongues and sponge in equal measure. Now then, regarding the seance that took place past the cafeteria on Thursday, the one involving the bubbly gentleman with wieners full of cats. I believe it would be in everyone's best interest if we treated that event with the same hush-hush reverence we reserve for my pink burrito recipe. You see, I've always said a good tea room runs on eggs, deodorant, and sunglasses. To keep things tidier than my late husband's thong drawer, bless him, I've moved your shift to Sunday evening away from the more purple hours. Should anyone inquire, tell them I've taken up twister and taxidermy in my dotage. You're a rare iris in my little garden. Warmest regards, and mind the nerdy plunger by the back door. Mrs. Windsor, owner, operator, personality, since 1776.
How cute.
There you are.
Oh, Mrs. Windsor.
Mrs. Windsor has some shady shit going on at
She does.
personality.
And
yes.
I feel like she uses euphemisms for everything in the most confusing way.
Her husband had a thong drawer.
Poor Roger. Roger, you need to quit your fucking job. That lady's crazy. You need to run.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mind the nerdy plunger by the back door.
By the back door. Yeah, so that's all we have for you,
Thank you.
folks. Thank you so
All right.
much for listening to our podcast this week. We're just two middle-aged old white ladies. Oh, I said old and you didn't write that. All right. Thanks.
Speak for yourself, Ivy.
Thank you so much for listening to our podcast this week. We're just two middle-aged white ladies who do not, under any circumstances, engage in skullduggery.
No,
but we
ma'am.
will probably be writing a musical about it soon.
Yeah. Skullduggery is the rousing pirate number with the full ensemble. Oh, my God.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. If you'd like to share a Bad Boss story with us, or if you're interested in maybe being a guest on the pod, that would be so cool. We would love that.
Yep.
Please email us at stories@badbossdetox.com. Also, feel free to follow us on Facebook at Bad Boss Detox and on Instagram at Bad Boss Detox Pod, especially if you want to see a picture of Sister Mary Margaret Kruper, who looks like she is in pain for some reason. She's got a look to her.
She does. Mm-hmm.
No judgment, but if you're enjoying the show, maybe just let us know you exist. We're still trying to figure out the podcast thing. I was screwing around with the Apple podcast thing today, and I'm like, I know that I clicked this button already. So we would love to hear from you. Leave us a comment if you would.
Yes, and also please leave us a review or drop a little note to say hi, because Jonathan cannot gas us up all on his own.
He is doing his best.
He's trying.
Okay.
That is it for the week. I am going to go put a potato in the oven for my husband.
All right. He
Mhm.
can't put it in the oven himself, I guess.
No, that's in the kitchen.
That's in the kitchen. He's not allowed in there.
No.
I am going to go eat another cupcake because talking about donuts and pink cocaine has made me feel
Well,
like I
too
really
bad you
want
don't
some
have
sugar.
a little cup of that pink cocaine to like just dip your cupcake in.
Girl, if I did, I would be texting you like, Ivy, oh my God, the world is ending. I'm going to die. Everything's...
Well, the difference between cocaine and marijuana is marijuana never killed anybody.
Right.
Cocaine can kill you, so I don't recommend fucking around with that.
No, I don't fuck around with anything. I'm too nervous.
That's one thing. My office mate and I have a saying: everything in moderation except for cocaine, because you got to do a lot of that. But no, scratch that last part. It's the joke. But everything in moderation is what I live by.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you so much for podding with me.
That was so much fun. I liked this episode. Yeah. All right. Join us next week when we'll be talking about schemers and scammers. Why are people so evil and greedy? And why does that Nigerian prince need so much money?
I don't know if we can answer those questions, but we can warn you about some ridiculous bullshit that they're trying to pull. Stay tuned for that.